Every single person has a weakness. Some hide it, some excuse it, most ignore it. But here's the truth no one wants to admit. Your weakness is not staying silent, it's waiting to destroy you. Today, we're going to expose the silent enemy inside you and uncover Steve Jobs' darkest power lessons on how to destroy it, before it destroys everything you dream of building. Weakness is never loud. It never crashes into your life like a storm you can see coming. It creeps, it whispers, it hides behind excuses and disguises itself as comfort, as safety, as normal. And that's why it's so dangerous. Because weakness doesn't destroy you in one single moment. It eats away at you quietly, day after day, until one morning you wake up and realize the life you wanted, the dreams you had, the potential you carried, it's gone. Stolen, not by someone else, but by the very weakness you refuse to destroy. Think about it. Weakness doesn't look like failure in the beginning. Weakness feels good at first. It feels like staying in bed a little longer. It feels like telling yourself, I'll start tomorrow. It feels like scrolling when you should be working. It feels like choosing what's easy instead of what's necessary. Weakness seduces you because it doesn't feel like destruction. It feels like relief. But every time you give in, every time you let that weakness breathe, it grows stronger while you grow weaker. The scariest part? Weakness never advertises its price up front. It doesn't show you the cost of wasted years, the regret of missed chances, or the pain of mediocrity. It doesn't reveal the moment when someone else, hungrier and stronger, takes the opportunity that should have been yours. Weakness hides the bill until it's too late, and when it finally collects, the cost is everything you ever wanted. Steve Jobs understood this truth deeply. People saw him on stage as a visionary, a genius, a man who bent the future into reality. But what they didn't see was the constant war he waged against his weakness. He knew that weakness could destroy focus, corrupt creativity, and poison vision. He knew that no matter how brilliant an idea was, it would never see the light of day if he let weakness whisper him into comfort. And that's the problem most people face. They underestimate their weakness because it doesn't feel like a threat in the moment. They say, it's just one day off. It's just one compromise. It's just one excuse. But one excuse is never just one. Weakness multiplies. It stacks. It compounds. And before long, what started as small moments of comfort becomes a lifestyle of surrender. Weakness doesn't care how talented you are. It doesn't care how big your dreams are. Weakness doesn't care about your potential. The weakness is the patient. It waits for you to lower your guard. It waits for you to choose what's easy. And then it starts to devour you piece by piece. First, it steals your discipline, then your drive, then your belief in yourself. Until finally, you're left with nothing but regret, asking yourself, where did it all go? That's why weakness is the most dangerous enemy you'll ever face. Because unlike failure, you can see failure, you can touch it, you can learn from it. Failure is visible. Weakness is invisible. It's hidden in the background, shaping your decisions without you even realizing it. And the truth is, most people don't even recognize that their weakness is winning until the damage is already done. Steve Jobs refused to let that happen. He believed that weakness was like rot in a foundation. You can't build anything lasting on top of it. You have to expose it. You have to confront it. You have to cut it out, no matter how uncomfortable it feels. Because if you ignore it, it will always find a way to bring the entire structure crashing down. And here's the cruel irony: the world doesn't forgive weakness. The world doesn't hand you sympathy when your dreams collapse because you lacked the strength to fight for them. The world rewards the strong, the disciplined, the relentless, and it punishes the weak, not with anger, but with silence. because no one remembers the people who let weakness win. Weakness is a silent killer, and it lives in all of us. It lives in that voice that tells you to wait. It lives in the comfort that tempts you to settle. It lives in the excuses you whisper to yourself in the dark when no one else is watching. And if you don't learn to recognize it, if you don't learn to destroy it, weakness will not just slow you down. It will consume you, and it will take everything you ever wanted along with it. Most people spend their lives running from the truth. They cover it with excuses. They soften it with lies. They hide it behind distractions. But the truth always waits. It waits in the silence when no one is around. It waits in the mirror when you look at yourself. And deep down, you already know it. You know the brutal truth about who you are, about what you've avoided, about the weakness you've let grow inside you. The question is not whether you know it. The question is whether you will confront it. Confronting the brutal truth is the first step to killing weakness. Because as long as you protect your weakness with excuses, it survives. As long as you defend it, it breathes. When you say, "That's just the way I am," you give it power. When you say, "I can't change," you permit it to stay. And every time you lie to yourself, every time you look away, your weakness grows stronger and your potential shrinks smaller. Steve Jobs was ruthless about truth. He didn't care if it hurt. He didn't care if it was uncomfortable. He believed that facing the brutal reality was the only way to create something extraordinary. That's why he demanded so much from himself and the people around him. Because he knew that the moment you start protecting lies, the moment you start softening the edges of reality, you're already on the path to mediocrity. The brutal truth is this: you are exactly where you are today because of the decisions you've made, not because of luck, not because of circumstances, not because of anyone else. You are here because of you. And if you're not where you want to be, if you're not living the life you dreamed, then there is a weakness inside you that you've refused to confront. Maybe it's laziness, maybe it's fear, maybe it's a lack of focus, but until you stand face to face with that reality, nothing will change. The problem is, most people don't want the truth. They want comfort. They want reassurance. They want someone to tell them, "It's okay, it's not your fault." But comfort is poison. Reassurance is a drug. It makes you feel better in the moment, while it kills you in the long run. That's why Steve Jobs rejected comfort. He didn't want lies. He didn't want excuses. He wanted the brutal truth, even if it was ugly, because he knew the truth was the only thing that could cut weakness apart. Think about the last time you failed at something. Did you tell yourself the truth? Or did you cover it up with excuses? Did you admit that you weren't disciplined enough? Or did you blame someone else? Did you admit that you didn't work hard enough? Or did you tell yourself the world was unfair? This is what separates those who rise from those who stay stuck. The ones who rise confront the brutal truth. The ones who stay stuck protect their weakness with lies. The brutal truth is not comfortable. It never feels good to admit that you've been lazy, or unfocused, or weak. It never feels good to look at yourself and realize you've been standing in your way. But the moment you do, something powerful happens. Because once you name your weakness, you take away its disguise. Once you shine the light of truth on it, you strip it of its power. And only then can you destroy it. Steve Jobs used this mindset not just in his personal life, but in every product he created. He didn't sugarcoat flaws. He didn't say, "It's good enough." He confronted the brutal truth of what wasn't working, no matter how much it hurt, and demanded it be fixed. That's why his products didn't just compete, they dominated, because he refused to let lies and excuses protect weakness. But here's the part most people avoid. Confronting the brutal truth is not a one-time event. It's a daily war. Every day you have to ask yourself the hard questions. Am I giving my best? Am I doing the work? Am I running from fear? Am I hiding behind comfort? And when the answer is no, you have to face it without flinching, without excuses, without escape. Because every time you tell yourself the truth, you sharpen your strength. Every time you confront reality head on, you weaken the grip of the enemy inside you. The brutal truth is not your enemy. Weakness is. And the only weapon sharp enough to cut it down is honesty. Ruthless, unfiltered honesty with yourself. Comfort is the enemy of greatness. It feels soft, it feels safe, it feels easy. But comfort doesn't create strength. Comfort doesn't build vision. Comfort doesn't make history. Comfort is the breeding ground of weakness. And weakness will destroy everything you want in life if you don't destroy it first. Discipline, on the other hand, is the weapon that separates the average from the extraordinary. It's the invisible force behind every achievement, every breakthrough, every empire ever built. Without discipline, your talent rots. Without discipline, your ideas die. Without discipline, your potential never makes it past the fantasy stage. Steve Jobs understood this better than anyone. He knew comfort was a trap. He knew that the mind loves to choose what is easy, what is pleasant, what feels good right now. But he also knew that every time you choose comfort over discipline, you make a trade. You trade long-term power for short-term relief. You trade your future self for your present weakness. And that trade is always a loss. Discipline is not about punishment. People get it wrong when they think discipline is suffering for the sake of suffering. No. Discipline is the highest form of self-respect. It's the recognition that your dreams deserve more than your excuses. It's the commitment to act even when you don't feel like it, because you know the cost of comfort is far greater than the cost of effort. Think about it. Discipline is waking up when your body wants to sleep. Discipline is focusing when your mind wants to wander. Discipline is saying no to distractions when the world is screaming for your attention. Discipline is choosing what is hard again and again, because you know that what is hard today will become the strength that carries you tomorrow. Steve Jobs built his empire not because he was comfortable, but because he was disciplined. He demanded excellence, not when it was convenient, but when it was exhausting. He pushed himself and his team beyond comfort because he knew that comfort produces mediocrity, and mediocrity was never the goal. He wasn't chasing good enough. He was chasing perfection, and perfection only bows to discipline. The truth is, discipline will test you. It will strip away your illusions. It will expose the weakness inside you and force you to choose. Do you give in to the ease of comfort, or do you rise through the fire of effort? Most people choose comfort, and that's why most people never rise. But the ones who embrace discipline, the ones who make it their way of life, become unstoppable. Discipline doesn't feel good in the moment. It feels heavy. It feels uncomfortable. It feels like a sacrifice. But comfort, though it feels good now, carries the heaviest burden of all. The burden of regret. The burden of wasted time. The burden of a life that could have been great but wasn't, because comfort was chosen again and again. And here's the paradox. Discipline, which feels hard at first, eventually creates freedom. The freedom to control your destiny. The freedom to live without regret. The freedom to command your mind and body instead of being a slave to weakness. Comfort promises freedom but delivers chains. Discipline feels like chains but delivers freedom. Steve Jobs once said that focus is about saying no. That's discipline. Saying no to the distractions. Saying no to the excuses. Saying no to the weakness that tries to seduce you with comfort. Every no you say to weakness is a yes to your power. Every time you choose discipline, You sharpen the blade that cuts through mediocrity. Ask yourself, how many dreams have died in the arms of comfort? How many lives have been wasted because discipline was too hard? The world is filled with people who had potential, people who had vision, people who had everything it took to succeed, except discipline. And so their potential rotted, their vision faded, and their lives became ordinary. But those who embrace discipline, they are the ones who rise. They are the ones who create. They are the ones who dominate, because they understand that greatness is not built in moments of comfort. Greatness is built in the grind, in the sacrifice, in the relentless discipline that refuses to stop until the vision becomes reality. Weakness is not just something to destroy. It's something to transform. Because hidden inside every weakness is a seed of strength waiting to be forged. What you think is holding you back can become the very fuel that pushes you forward. If you refuse to let it control you, most people make the mistake of thinking weakness is permanent. They believe, this is just who I am. I'll never change. I'll never be disciplined. I'll never be fearless. I'll never be focused. And so they surrender. They give their weakness a throne and crown it king. But weakness only wins when you feed it. The moment you decide to fight, the moment you refuse to bow to it, that same weakness begins to transform. Steve Jobs was not born fearless. He was not born disciplined. He was not born brilliant at leading people. He had flaws, he had doubts, he had failures. But he turned those weaknesses into weapons. He transformed impatience into urgency. He transformed rejection into fire. He transformed his relentless demand for perfection into a force that reshaped entire industries. What others saw as flaws, he sharpened into tools. What others called impossible, he turned into a vision. Weakness can become your greatest strength if you stop running from it and start confronting it. Laziness can become efficiency if you learn to channel it. Fear can become courage when you face it head on. Doubt can become a focus when you use it as a reminder to prepare harder. Every weakness, when attacked, can be transformed into a source of power, but only if you refuse to let it dictate your life. The truth is, weakness is raw energy, and energy can be redirected. The same fear that paralyzes you can also awaken you. The same insecurity that makes you shrink can also push you to sharpen your craft until no one can question you. The same frustration that eats at you can become the fire that drives you. Weakness is not the end. It's the beginning of transformation. But here's the key: transformation doesn't happen in comfort. Transformation only happens in the fire. You cannot transform weakness while protecting it. You cannot transform weakness while making excuses for it. You cannot transform weakness while pretending it isn't there. You must drag it into the light. You must expose it, break it down, and then rebuild it into something new. Steve Jobs didn't hide from his weaknesses. He let them burn him, shape him, mold him. Every setback he faced became a crucible. When he was fired from Apple, his greatest fear became reality. But instead of letting that weakness destroy him, he turned it into power. He built Nextdoor. He built Pixar. He sharpened himself into someone even stronger. And when he returned to Apple, he didn't come back the same man. He came back transformed. That's the lesson most people miss. Weakness is not a curse. Weakness is a test. Weakness asks you, will you let me control you? Or will you use me? Will you hide from me? Or will you face me? Will you surrender? Or will you transform? Those who surrender become victims. Those who transform become legends. Weakness cannot destroy you if you refuse to hide from it. Weakness cannot break you if you use it as fuel. Weakness cannot define you if you decide to redefine it. Every weakness you face is a doorway, and on the other side of that doorway is a strength you never knew you had. But the price of entry is pain. The price of entry is honesty. The price of entry is the courage to confront the darkest parts of yourself and reshape them into weapons. That's why transformation is the ultimate victory. It's not just about killing weakness. It's about rebirth. It's about taking what once held you back and turning it into the very reason you rise. The laziness that kept you small becomes the hunger to be efficient. The fear that made you hesitate becomes the courage to act. The rejection that broke you becomes the resilience to never stop. Transformation is the alchemy of greatness, turning weakness into power. Weakness is not your friend. It is not harmless. It is not small. It is the silent enemy that waits for you in every decision, in every excuse, in every moment of hesitation. And if you don't destroy it, it will destroy you. You've seen the truth. Weakness is a silent killer. It hides in comfort, it feeds on excuses, and it waits until you've wasted years before revealing the damage it has done. You've seen that the only way to rise is to confront the brutal truth. No lies, no masks, no excuses. You've seen that discipline is the weapon that cuts weakness down, the fire that shapes your future, the power that separates the ordinary from the unstoppable. And you've seen that even your weaknesses, once exposed and confronted, can be transformed into strength, into fuel, into the very power that carries you beyond limits. This is the darkest lesson, but it is also the most liberating one. The battle is not out there, it is in here. The war is not against the world, it is against yourself. And every day, you decide which side wins. The question is no longer whether you have a weakness. Everyone does. The question is whether you will destroy it or let it destroy you.